All right, everybody. So, very good episode for you today. I'm going to cover a little bit about just kind of where the market's at right now, what's happening, kind of my reaction to it, and then what I'm doing about it. So, all right. So, specifically, we're going to talk about the market. I mean, it's been, if we look at the last month, really the month of July, um, it just had these step downs. So, it's like every day the market opens, it goes way down, it flattens out. I mean, it's not jagged, right? It just step down, step downs. We had one day here, and it was actually the day I was like, Lord, just give me one good day, and that was the good day. So God answers prayers, and then it's just these step downs, right? Um, and so one of the things I was trying to figure out is this. So I'll show you a couple things that I looked at today. In fact, we're going to move this over because that'll cover later. And basically, it comes down to the Delta variant. It's interesting. I see three different articles that I saw, and they all kind of say it different ways. I think U.S. News and World Report. I think whoever wrote the headline is just wins the succinct award. Stocks plunge on Delta variant fears. But what we always say is, Warren Buffett's quote: "Be greedy when people are fearful, and fearful when people are greedy." So you hear that, and it's like, all right, people are getting fearful. Well, let's get greedy. And so, what do you do to get greedy? Well, you want to lower your cost basis. And we're going to talk about that in a little bit. Um, and specifically for me, like when I was getting down about this, it was mainly because I was like, all right, I'll get ready to shed some stocks. And realistically, it was just to pay my tuition payment, which is an obscene amount of money. And I don't even want to tell you what it is, but it's an obscene amount of money. And I'm like, dude, this is going down like in this craziest way that we haven't seen before, right as I have a tuition payment coming up. And I'm like, I do not want to sit here and write and cash out stocks when the market goes way down. So anyway, it pushes out the horizon a little bit further, and we're kind of looking at this. We're trying to reestablish a really amazing buying opportunity, and we're going to talk about why it's a buying opportunity coming up in a second. And it just means we push it out further. I mean, I have 3 years to pay for college, so I have time, I guess. I mean, I wanted to be out of the market in September. Um, but if it means we push it out, we push it out. So be it. All right. So the next one we looked at, that was U.S. News and World Report. They win the succinct award. We go to the New York Times, who writes a pretty good headline here. Stocks tumble, which should be more than tumble. Stocks tumble amid concerns over Delta variant's impact on growth. So maybe it's not tumble, but I think they add more. They change fear to concerns, and then they talk about the impact on growth, which is the same thing, which I think is basically saying the correct thing. And then we look at the Wall Street Journal, and they're going to be more technical because it's the Wall Street Journal. Dow falls 900 points today, which you kind of knew that was going to happen. We saw all the stocks that we follow, and they've just had a terrible 2 weeks, and yet the market as a whole, the Dow and the S&P really hadn't been affected. So it seems weird. It seems really weird to me that you would have all this big drop off in these small cap stocks that we have, and then it wouldn't impact anybody else. And so finally it hit. Maybe it's a trailing indicator. They fell 900 points. Oil dropped as well, which it did, as the Delta variant sends investors into bonds because they're concerned about growth and demand and blah blah blah. And everybody's fearful. There'll be shutdowns, but there's not going to be any shutdowns. I mean, this is not going to happen. And then I want to look at. We haven't done this in a while, so we will look at our little COVID dashboard, which I haven't looked at in a while. So anyway, it sends it into bonds. So the bond prices have been going down, and so people are going into bonds. But the money's just moving one. They're not selling the stocks necessarily. They're just trying to, I don't know. It's kind of a diversification, a safe play. They're going into bonds. But you remember like a month or two ago, the bond prices were going crazy, maybe 2 months ago. And people were concerned that you're going to have this runaway interest rate, acceleration, which that never really panned out. So one of the things that I realized, and I don't know why I never realized it, maybe I told you I'm not like the stock guy. That's probably the answer why. So we know about the Dow and the S&P and the NASDAQ, and they don't always follow our portfolio very well. And so I realized that I always hear people talk about this, the Russell 2000, and it's basically they track smaller cap stocks. So I looked at that a little bit, and we're going to take a look. And this is basically the Russell chart. We're going to get. All right, so this is the Russell chart, and it basically follows our chart. So if we look at our Robinhood chart. We'll take a look at 3 months. We'll go a year. Maybe it's the year we're looking at. Yeah, so that's kind of the shape of the chart we see right here, right? So then we look at the Russell, and it basically follows the same thing. And yeah, basically year over year, because we see July to July. And then we look at this one here, and it basically follows the same pattern. So it's basically, the Russell got impacted over the Delta variant fears, and we're going to talk about why it's a fear and why it's not a reality coming up in a little bit. So if you guys haven't looked at the Russell 2000, it basically, I think, is a good indicator, and I have it set on my phone on one of my browsers just as a dedicated open screen to Russell futures, so you can kind of see where that's going, because I think that's going to be more valuable. But as we go forward, it says businesses of all sizes are feeling great about the economy. So we compare out, where is this? Compare out Delta variant fears, right? And then we look at Yahoo Morning, and this is an email I got. It's just the web version of it. Business of all sizes are feeling great about the economy. Optimism in the economy is abundant right now. Consumers haven't been this confident in prospects since the pandemic began. Well, obviously, right? Let's see. When executives like JP Morgan CEO Jamie Dimon are saying that the pump is primed for consumers to start spending, you know how he's feeling about the state of the economy. So anyway, this was dated. You think it would be dated, a month ago. This was dated today. So we look at the combination of Delta variant fears, and then we look at, basically consumer confidence, and it's like, all right, these are two totally different things. So anyway, so that's kind of one of the things to look at, and we're going to talk a little bit about, and we'll save this AHT for the end, because somebody asked me a question about that. We haven't really talked about it too much. So specifically, what am I doing? So as we look forward, I'm basically doing a bunch of limit sells, but not a lot, not basically just as like, oh my gosh, the market's going down, let me sell. I'm not doing that at all. The first three here are basically limit sells, where it's just stocks that, I kind of want to shed out and simplify my portfolio a little bit. These allow us to make a profit, so we may or may not make these anytime soon. IVR is the only one that I've ever been in the red on historically, so this one allows me to end in the black right here. Dogecoin, I'm just over it. Like, I don't know, every time I buy it, it either stays the same or goes down, and then I sell it and it goes up. So maybe when I tell you I sell it, you guys should probably buy it and you'll make a lot of money. So, but anyway, so these are just ones I'm trying to simplify my portfolio. Blink Energy is the same thing. I'm just trying to, the rest of these, it's about freeing up cash flow. So one of the things that I looked at here was I took my monthly report, which I always show you guys. And typically the monthly report, if we look at, we'll go to some of these right here. I'll just pick one right here. So it has the beginning of the month, what I bought, what I sold, and then the end of the month. And then it shows kind of like what the gain was and all that fun stuff. So what I did is I wanted to take a look and see which stocks were more impacted in July than others. I mean, they were all negatively impacted. Let's be clear about that, just because of the Delta variant thing going on. So, but I wanted to figure out which ones were most impacted, and then if there were ones that weren't really all that impacted negatively, maybe they're a small negative impact, then depending on how much I have, how much I've gained off it, and maybe some subjective aspects to the stock, I might consider selling some of these just to free up some cash flow. So the idea is, my sweet spot is if it hasn't really lost a lot of percentage and I have a large stake in it, so I can afford to sell some off and not really impact long-term gains on it. And if it's a stock that has gone over my projection of what I initially wanted to make early on, then those are the ones I'm going to buy. So again, the lowest percentage loss, so it's like it hasn't really impacted that much, so I'm not going to take in this big sell-off that we've had the last few weeks in the travel stocks. So that's level one. Level two is I want one that, I don't want a stock that I have $2,000 in. There's no point. There's no big upside or downside to selling it. You want one that has a big portfolio amount, so I can sell some, clear some money, and still have a nice little stake in it. And then obviously we're going to look at, I forget what the third one was. Well, anyway, so we looked at this, and I basically took this, I put in the percentage gain. So I have the percentage gain since July. So that basically this is the beginning of July. Oops, sorry. That's the beginning of July numbers. This is the numbers as of yesterday, and this is basically the change. And then I looked at the overall gain that I've made in the stock, in these individual stocks overall. And so what we're going to do is we're going to sort this out. All right, I'm not sure why oh. So let's do this, start of month price. Okay, so since it was a stock split, we're going to talk about that in a minute. We just got to adjust this a little bit. All right, good. All right, so we took a look at these stocks. The ones that had the biggest hit were AHT, PBF, and Skills. Well, AHT for the most part, PBF next, and then the rest were all in the 20% roughly, give or take, a little more, a little less. So I looked at the ones were lowest. Varant down 7%, but I'm negative on that, so I'm not selling that. Oop. GDEN, which is Golden Entertainment, that's a casino stock, but we're up 140, so that's a possibility we're going to look at. SOHO is one we're down 9%, but we're up 60% on that. And then, were there any other ones that I looked at here? I have the highlighted one with the cryptos. Mainly it was just putting the chart together more than anything. So I kind of looked at those and said, okay, those are ones that I might want to consider putting a sell order in on. So we're going to touch base on that in a little bit. So the other one I looked at was Blink. So I kind of went down to my portfolio down here. And Blink Charging, which I obviously sold, was obviously in the positive. We're going to get rid of this because we don't need to show that anymore. So basically, we'll go here. We're going to be doing a little bit of jumping around, so just do your best to follow me here for a second. So I just hide these because they don't have any holdings in them anymore. So Blink, I bought it for $23.84, sold it for $32.15, basically cleared a little bit of money here and there. So it's not one that I'm super married to. I mean, we're trying to get rid of the Biden stocks anyway over the long term, so it's not really too much of a change as that goes. So basically made about, I sold 80 of this, not 40. So cleared about 2,500 of that. Then ones we did today, we're going to cover that today. Caesar Entertainment, I had, right here, I had 272. So I had about 24,000 in here. I made about 389. And so I looked at Caesar's Entertainment, and so I went to, let me open this up a little wider. All right, so I went to projections, and then I have this one here where I have all the stocks right here. Basically, anything that shows up in the green here means that I'm over the projection for what I was thinking I was going to make on the stock. So it's the upside gain percentage, 288, which you add 100% because it's like of what you came in with. So upside gain, I was looking to, my original goal was 388.36%. It's at 389.25. So we made some of that. So that's in the green. Every was the same thing. Every was supposed to be 221, so we'll call it 321 over here. It's at 368. So we're good with that. And then Golden Entertainment, which happened to be on our list a little earlier, was at 23.53%. We bought that a little bit later in the game, so I think 123. We're sitting here at 140. And then Signet Jewelers, the same thing. I mean, we've owned a ton. We're thinking we're gonna make 341. We're at 875, but we were over 1,000 before. So the reason I decided not to add that, just to cut to the chase on that one, is we just don't hold a big stake in that. I have $4,000 in it, so we're just not going to consider that at all. So specifically, I sold 72 shares out of 272 in Caesar, and I sold 310 shares out of 1,110 shares of every. Basically cleared up 6,500 in this, 6,400 in that, about $11,000. Blink was about 2,500, so we cleared about, I don't know, 13, 14, 15, $16,000 on that. And so what that allows us to do is it allows us to have about $21,000 to play with. Okay, so we'll just go back to our one-day look. $21,000 to play with if we decide we want to sell. But right now, I have no indication that this market's turning around yet, so I'm not buying anything yet. I'm just freeing up cash as we have it. Now, there's 3 other ones that we haven't done yet. Yuko, which was the same thing. We're basically sitting here with Yuko at it's at $66 a share right now. So we'll take a look at Yuko, which is our oil stock. It's kind of not a long-term stock, so maybe I probably should look at getting rid of that. So we look at over the last month, and it hit a high of 81 here and 81 here. It went like 73 is kind of where it's, it never really went below that, so 75. So we pick one in the middle. It's about 70, 79, 78, somewhere around there, maybe 77 right here. And that's kind of where I looked at that and said, okay, if it gets to 77, then we'll put a buy-in on that. So we don't have to. Let me see how much we have in Yuko. So we have 200 shares, and I would be selling 100 of those to split the difference, take the gain, free up some money, and we'll see what happens. But that's probably not going to happen too soon. Golden Entertainment, we did do a buy on that, or a sell on that recently. Small buy or small sell on that one. So we have 100 shares on that. It's a small casino. I'm not too worried about it. We have that sector represented pretty well. So I figure we take a look at Golden Casino, take a look over the last month. Got as high as 47, average around 45 right here before it had that spike. Hit up here about 45, so I thought, okay, well, that's probably where I want to have it. So if it gets to 45, it's about 41 right now, so get there relatively soon. We'll just clean our holdings of that, and we'll move forward. And then Azul was one that I picked up here because it's a Brazilian airline. It's not even a U.S. one. So eventually we're going to look at getting rid of that. So I got up to about 28, 24, 25, 25, hovered around 21, and it's sitting here at 22 right now. So I just figured, okay, we're going to just put it at 26.5. I don't have to get rid of it, but we'll take a look at a month. It was up at 28, flatlined at about 26. So this was the spot that I picked. I'm like, all right, if it gets back to here, we'll sell it. No big deal. We bought it for $8. We're going to make a nice profit off it. So we'll do that there. So overall, I have limit orders for about $50,000 in there. We'll take a look. One of the things that I typically do every day is I'll go in and I'll look, and there's not many recently, but I'll look at ones where it's in the green on a particular day. So Fuel Cell and Skills, they're not in a position to sell. They're in the green. DraftKings, again, we talked about the fact that I think September and October are going to blow up for this stock. And then we move forward, and there's not really any other ones there. So that's kind of our plan going forward. I didn't anticipate having this big buying opportunity. I thought this was going to be a selling zone in the next few weeks. Just have a stock, have a good day, sell it out, and just cycle that through and make money on in that way. And plus, I don't want to sell all these stocks. I could have sold, like I keep saying to myself, well, what if I sold it when I was at 205,000, right? Well, then I would have this, if I sold everything, yeah, I would have avoided this big drop, right? But I would have a massive capital gains tax, and I'm just not going to do that. So I'm willing to ride it out and see what happens. So with that being said, somebody asked about AHT. They recently went through a 10-to-1 reverse split, mainly because their stock was at, was at $4 to $5 a share, and it got down to about $2 a share. So they initiated a 10-to-1 reverse split. So, and it says it tumbles on the reverse split. There's the 1 to 10 reverse split. So that means if you own 100 shares, then you have 10 shares now, right? But the shares are worth 10 times as much. So anyway, trying to figure out what it was. And sometimes they do it because it's a threat of delisting, but they've never been in a position where they've been a threat of delisting, not even close. So one of the things that they wrote here says by implementing the reverse stock split, the company and its board, they said, and this is just, I'll kind of interpret this for you. The company and its board believe they can realize increased incremental demand for its common stock and its options while also making the company's shares more attractive. And this is the key to a broader range of potential long-term institutional investors, individual investors, and buy-side analysts. So one of the things that basically they're saying, if you look at the institutional investors and the options, it's really hard. It's hard to attract buy options when the stock is $3 a share. It just is. But when you increase it by an order of magnitude, in other words, multiply it times 10, then it basically makes it a lot easier to attract that. And they really want more institutional investors. So that's kind of where it went through. Now, we see it went down today, and they're like, oh, it tumbled on reverse stock split. But you got to remember, we have a stock here in our portfolio that did the same thing. And they actually, instead of a 10-to-1 split, underwent a 25-to-1 split. And that is our UCO stock here. This UCO stock underwent a 25-to-1 split and went way down. But eventually, cooler heads prevailed. People realized the value of the stock, and it basically went back up. So I bought it at $28 a share. In fact, let's see if we can find it. I'm not even sure if it still has the history because, well, no, it didn't undergo a ticker change, so it still should be in here. So, no, it stopped at the 25-to-1 split right here. So, but anyway, it went way negative, probably 30-some-odd% negative. But over the long term, let's take a look at it. Where's the UCO? Where's my UCO? We'll look at kind of the long-term performance since the split. So there's your split. And it basically represents what the stock was taking the split into consideration. But we look over the last year, and the stock's gone up. So from where it was $32 a share, it was like $22.91 if I remember right when I bought it from, and now it's at $82. So I don't really feel like this is an overall something to be concerned about. The last one I also considered, I forgot to talk about, was Southerly. This is the one that I always wanted to buy. I just had a really good feeling on it, and I was thinking, okay, well, let's take a look at a stock that maybe we might want to sell. And this one was one that I came up with. Oops, sorry about that. But then I looked at the fact that it was at $4.03 in June. Over the last year, it's kind of gone up and down. The highest it's got was in March, got up to $4.43. In June, it was $4.05. Lowest it got was $2.82, and we're sitting at $2.68 right now. So I was thinking, well, I could sell that, but I kind of would rather sell it at about $3.09. But the difference between $2.68 and $3.09 is not all that much. And then in the end, I just looked at it, and I'm like, I don't really have much of it. So we look at SOHO here, and I have $2,700 in it. So it's like, that's not even worth doing it. Let it ride. If it goes down, I don't lose much. If it goes up, I gain it. So I decided to leave that one alone. So long story short, guys, is U.S. News and World Report got it right. Stocks plunge on Delta variant fears. They're concerned about demand. People are worried, are there going to be more shutdowns? But there's no appetite for that. Also, let's take a look at the San Diego Union Tribune. I forgot to tell you about that. I don't know where it is in your area, so it might be be different to some respect, but we're at 80% vaccination. Recent cases, 275 cases. We go back to June, we're at like 62, so really hasn't changed a whole lot. New cases by day. It went from like 50 to 275. I mean, this little jump. Everybody's panicked about this little movement. Yet we look at deaths, and the last death was reported. This is crazy. I actually emailed them, and I haven't got a response yet. Their last death was reported, if you look right here, was June 23rd. That's like almost a month ago. So nobody's dying from COVID. Deaths by day. The last death reported was June 29th. I mean, it's hitting healthy people. It's hitting unvaccinated people. It's hitting the people, and you'll hear that even in the news. Oh, it's hitting the vaccinated people. So it's hitting this 20% of people that aren't vaccinated. But if we look at it, it's like the cases aren't really that high, and people aren't dying. I tried to find hospitalization data on this. We'll see what they say because they haven't really published it. But basically we're at 2.87%. We looked back earlier. It's basically a record low if we didn't have this ultra low under 1% back in June. So see if there's anything else on here that is worthy of looking at. So, but I emailed this lady, Christina Bivik, and we'll see what she says on that. But anyway, this whole fear thing is overblown. The news, it's a summer. There's nobody watching anything. Trump's not in office. They could go after Biden and Hunter Biden and get tons of ratings on that, but they're not going to do that. They protect the dude. So what do? They have to drive up ratings and they have to gin up all this panic. And so it's about this Delta variant. But the Delta variant's hitting the people who didn't get vaccinated because they don't think COVID's a threat. They're not going to the hospital and they're not dying. So I would say we always talk about focusing on the cost basis. I've freed up a bunch of money. And at some point, we're going to turn this over here into this over here. So specifically ones that I would buy offhand. I haven't done a ton of research, so don't hold this to me. I don't know. Maybe I might consider buying some more AHT on there. We look at ones that are, like the cruise lines, I think are going to be fine. Corsair Gaming, I kind of want to get rid of that one anyway, so I probably would buy that one as well. Let's see, maybe Future FinTech, but it's a Chinese company, so you never know about that too much. IVR for sure, probably buy that. MGM, yeah, we only have $3,000 in MGM, so I probably would buy that as well. I can't believe I wouldn't buy that more. Norwegian Cruise Lines, in fact, these three I definitely would put more money into. And Next Idea is one we're probably going to try to clear up at some point. Royal Caribbean, I only have 3,000 in there. I didn't even realize it till recently. And Red Robin Group had a big drop today, so I would probably buy that as well. So those are the ones that I would look at. And then probably Dogecoin, just because I want to get rid of it. I'm just frustrated with Dogecoin. So anyway, long story short, we're filling this up now. We're going to fill this up later. And the idea is we have to move our time horizon out. I thought I was going to be out by September, but apparently not. So... but we'll see. We'll see where things go. If you have any questions, let me know. Other than that, have a great day. Quick bonus for you today. It's just like when you watch the end of the Marvel movies or whatever, and there's always that bonus scene that clues you into the next movie. But you got to wait and sit through the credits. So I was watching Liz Clayman today. She talks about the Russell 2000. So I was watching her as I was making some food. And I started getting to think, we always talk about be fearful and greedy and fearful. And we're talking about cost basis. And I'm like, I really need to say this to you guys. This is a totally unexpected chance to make a ridiculous amount of money. I can't believe I didn't say that earlier. So I was thinking, okay, we're going to get out early and there's value to that. But you're not going to make a whole lot of money on the back end, right? But I was thinking, if these people are moronic enough that they're going to take all these fears about the Delta variant, which obviously aren't resulting in death or hospitalizations or anything like that, but it's more just the fact that it's the summer, there's no Trump around to talk about. They're morons, and I am ready to absolutely make money and rake them over the coals. So anyway, with that being said, I was watching Liz Clayman literally just a minute ago on DVR, and she asked this guy a question about is this a buying opportunity? And one of the areas he talks a little bit about some technical stuff. He talks about the VIX. I'm not really super educated on that one. But he makes a great point here, and I just wanted to share it with you.
Sense, and are you concerned on a day like this, or are you buying?
Well, as far as buying, I think you want to wait a little bit longer. You want to wait till that infamous VIX crosses 30. That's a better buying opportunity than right here. I mean, it's tempting to put some money to work, but I would give it a chance to sell it a little more.
All right, so that's one of the things he said there, and I agree with him. Like, let's get it selling off a little bit more. Let's wait until we get a sense that things are evening out. We don't have to find the exact bottom of the market, but we don't necessarily want to have to buy too early. If you buy too early, that's fine. As long as you lower your cost basis, you're in a good shape. But even if it starts to rebound a little bit and we get the backside of that curve, then we're still going to be making a ton of money. So that being said, there's a whole bunch of ridiculous people out there that are selling the stocks, going to bonds, are super reactive, and they're chasing their tail. And as Baron von Rothschild said, he said the best time to buy is when there's blood in the streets. So I think it's going to be bloodier in the streets coming forward. Warren Buffett said the best time to buy a company is when it's on the operating table. So I don't think we're there yet. But who is it? P.T. Barnum said, you can never go broke underestimating the intelligence of the American people. He's the guy that said there's a sucker born every minute, so we're going to follow that. But specifically, if these fools are going to be sitting here selling off on the fears of a Delta variant that doesn't, I mean, most of the people are vaccinated. It's only hitting young people. They're not going to the hospital. They're not dying. It's just a ratings bonanza, and they're selling off of that. I mean, let's absolutely take the discount off of them. I mean, it's like buying a TV on Thanksgiving night or the day after Thanksgiving. I mean, you're going to get a massive discount if you're willing to wait a little bit. So while on one end I wanted to get out of the market, I didn't really forecast this happening, and it's just an opportunity to honestly make money that we didn't have a chance to make before. So be greedy when people are fearful, and greedy when people are fearful, and fearful when people are greedy. Right now, people are fearful, so let's get greedy and get your powder dry, get some assets set up, get some cash on the side, do whatever you need to do, and then when it's time to pull the trigger, I'll let you know when I'm pulling the trigger, but get your powder dry so when it's time to pull the trigger, we're going to have some insane buying opportunities. Right now, I'm in the process of just picking and choosing chances to liquidate money so you can basically buy more of these stocks that are going to come back because it's just a Delta variant. It's not going to be around in 5 months. It's not going to be around 3 years from now. This is a chance to really make money off of an irrational fear. It's a phobia is what it is. Think about it. It's a phobia. It's an irrational fear. They have DeltaPhobia, which again, now I know what I'm naming the episode. So anyway, enjoy your day. Talk to you soon. To get more information on the sales cheat code, go ahead and click on the subscribe button below. Also, down below in the video description, down there, there's a link that takes you to our website that gives you additional content, some additional freebies that we have, and gives you information on some programs that we have that have been proven to help people to make sales easy so that you can make the kind of money you want, live the lifestyle that you've always wanted, and not have to struggle in the process. And what might be the coolest thing of all is you don't have to put much effort into it. It truly is a cheat code that most people don't know about. And it's a cheat code that can change your life today. So click on the link below and let me help you start to experience these results starting right now.